Before we get started, if you love Halloween and behind-the-scenes horror attraction content, hit subscribe. Drop a like if you want more stories like this, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and have you ever worked at a haunted house? Because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see Halloween attractions forever. Let's get into it. My name is Lisa Martinez, and I've worked at Nightmare Manor Haunted House Attraction for 6 years. I'm the makeup and effects coordinator. I design the scares, apply the prosthetics, make sure every actor looks terrifying enough to justify the $35 admission price. Nightmare Manor is one of those big seasonal attractions that pops up every October. We take over an old building. This year it's a defunct funeral home on the edge of town, and transform it into a 45-minute walkthrough experience. 23 rooms, each with different themes. Classic horror stuff. Zombies, chainsaw maniacs, creepy clowns, demonic nuns, the usual. The attraction runs from October 1st through November 2nd. We do massive business. Some nights we get 500+ people through. It's exhausting work, but the pay is good. And honestly, I love Halloween. Always have. There's something about creating controlled fear, watching people scream and laugh, that's deeply satisfying. This is our 3rd year in the funeral home location. The building's been empty since 2019 when the funeral business closed. It's perfect for a haunted house. Creepy architecture, maze-like layout, that authentic something died here atmosphere. Our owner, Marcus, got a great deal on the lease. We have about 40 actors working various shifts throughout October. Most are college kids or theater people who want Halloween gig work. They audition in September, we train them, assign them to rooms, and by October 1st opening night, everyone knows their roles. Except Room 13. Room 13 is the serial killer hallway. It's designed as a corridor lined with figures dressed as famous killers: Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, the Zodiac, Jack the Ripper. The scare works like this. Customers walk down the hallway thinking the figures are mannequins. Then, at strategic moments, the mannequins come alive, grabbing at people, making sudden movements, delivering scripted lines. It's one of our most popular rooms, always gets the best screams, but we can't keep actors in room 13. First year in this location, we hired 5 actors for that room. All 5 quit within 2 weeks. Various excuses. Schedule conflicts, other opportunities. It wasn't what I expected. Second year, we tried again. Hired 6 actors, figuring higher rotation would help. 4 quit in the first week. The other 2 lasted until mid-October before they stopped showing up. This year, Marcus told me we needed to solve the Room 13 problem. We're burning through actors like crazy. It's costing us money to keep rehiring. Find out what's wrong with that room. I figured it was something simple. Maybe the costumes were uncomfortable, or the room's ventilation was bad, or the fog machine was giving people headaches. Easy fixes. So I started interviewing the actors who'd quit. The first one I tracked down was Jake. Worked room 13 last year for 6 days before disappearing. "Why'd you quit?" I asked. He was quiet for a moment. "You're going to think I'm crazy. Try me. I work in horror." Nothing sounds crazy anymore. The other actors in room 13, they weren't acting. What do you mean? I mean, when customers weren't there. When we were just standing in position waiting for the next group, the other actors would... I don't know how to describe it. They'd be too still, like mannequins. Not moving, not breathing, not blinking, just frozen, and their eyes. He shuddered. Their eyes would be unfocused, like nobody was home. They were probably just getting into character. Method acting. That's what I told myself. But then I'd see them after our shift in the break room, and they'd be normal. Laughing, talking, eating. Like nothing weird had happened. But during the shift in room 13, they were wrong. Did you ask them about it? I tried. They'd look at me confused, like they didn't know what I was talking about. Said they were just doing their job, staying in character. But I know what I saw. They weren't acting. They were somewhere else. And whatever was in room 13 with me, it wasn't entirely them. I thanked him and moved on to the next person. Similar story. And the next. And the next. Every actor who'd quit room 13 reported the same thing. Their fellow actors would become unnaturally still between customer groups, almost catatonic, then snap back to normal when people walked through or when the shift ended. One actor, Emma, added something else. Sometimes I'd hear them talking when no customers were there, whispering to each other in voices that didn't sound right, old-fashioned language, and they'd have conversations I couldn't follow about people and places I'd never heard of. But when I'd ask what they were discussing, they'd act like they hadn't been talking at all. This was concerning, but I still thought there had to be a rational explanation. Shared delusion, carbon monoxide, something environmental? I went to room 13 during setup before we opened for the season. Checked the ventilation, tested for gas leaks, looked for anything that might cause hallucinations or strange behavior. Nothing. Room was fine. Just a long hallway with good airflow and standard haunted house lighting. The room had been the funeral home's viewing gallery. Long corridor where families would walk past open caskets during wakes. The viewing rooms branched off the hallway. We'd converted those rooms into alcoves where our killer actors would stand, positioned so customers walking down the main hallway could see them. I checked the building's history. The funeral home had operated from 1952 to 2019. Standard business, no scandals, no murders, no dark history that I could find. Just a family-run mortuary that eventually couldn't compete with corporate funeral chains. But I did find something interesting in the city records. The funeral home had been built on the site of an earlier structure, a boarding house that burned down in 1951. 13 people died in that fire. Their bodies were never recovered. Fire was so intense it essentially cremated everything. 13 deaths. Room 13. Probably coincidence. Opening night approached. Marcus had hired 7 new actors for room 13. I briefed them carefully, applied their makeup, got them into costume. 5 guys, 2 women, all playing different killers. I didn't mention what previous actors had reported. Didn't want to psych them out. Opening night was Friday, October 1st. The attraction opened at 7 p.m. By 8 p.m., we had a line around the block. I was busy all night, running between rooms, fixing makeup that sweated off, adjusting props, handling the 100 small crises that happen when you're scaring 500 people in one night. Around 11 p.m., during a brief lull, I decided to check on room 13. Make sure the new actors were handling it okay. I walked down the hallway toward room 13. Could hear customers screaming in other rooms. The sound of chainsaws recorded horror sounds. Normal, haunted house chaos. But room 13 was quiet. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The lighting was dim. Strategic shadows. Red and blue gels creating atmosphere. Fog machines pumping out mist at floor level. And there were the actors. 7 of them, positioned in their alcoves along the hallway, dressed as serial killers, standing perfectly still, waiting for the next customer group. I watched them for a moment. They were doing great. Really sold the mannequin illusion. Completely motionless, too motionless. I realized none of them were breathing. Their chests weren't moving at all, and they were all staring straight ahead with that unfocused look Jake had described. Like they were there, but not there. "Hey guys," I said. "Doing great. Just checking in." No response. Not even an eye movement to acknowledge me. "Guys, can you hear me?" Nothing. They just stood there, frozen, like they'd been paused. I walked up to the closest one, Derek, playing Ted Bundy. Young guy, theater major, very enthusiastic during training. I waved my hand in front of his face. He didn't blink. I snapped my fingers near his ear. No reaction. His eyes were open but glazed over. His skin felt cool to the touch. Not cold exactly, but cooler than a living person should be in a room this temperature. "Derek, you're scaring me. If this is method acting, it's too much." He didn't move, didn't respond. Just stood there in his 1970s era outfit, holding his VW Beetle prop key, staring at nothing. I checked the others, same thing. All 7 actors frozen in their positions, unresponsive, breathing so shallowly I couldn't see any chest movement. My heart was racing. This wasn't normal. This wasn't acting. I pulled out my radio. "Marcus, we have a situation in room 13. Before he could respond, I heard footsteps. Customers approaching. A group was being sent through. The moment the first customer appeared at the hallway entrance, all 7 actors simultaneously snapped to life. Their eyes focused. Their breathing became visible. They moved slightly, settling into their scare positions. When the customers walked past Derek, he lunged forward with perfect timing, grabbing at them, delivering his scripted line in Bundy's voice. The customers screamed, laughed, moved on to the next actor. By the time the group reached the end of the hallway, all 7 actors had performed their scares perfectly, exactly as rehearsed. Then the customers left, and the actors froze again, instantly, like someone had hit pause, back to that unnatural stillness. I stood there watching them. They remained frozen for about 3 minutes until the next customer group arrived. Then they animated again, performed their scares, and froze once more. Marcus arrived. "What's the situation?" "The actors in room 13. They're... Watch them." We observed for 15 minutes, saw the pattern repeat 4 times. Customers arrive, actors perform perfectly. Customers leave, actors freeze completely. "That's just good acting," Marcus said. "They're staying in character, conserving energy between groups." "Marcus, they're not breathing, I checked. They're not blinking, this isn't normal. You're seeing things. It's dark, it's been a long night, they're fine." "Then ask them to break character. Tell them to take a break." Marcus walked into the hallway. "Hey everyone, great job tonight. Let's take 5, grab some water." The actors didn't respond, didn't move, just stood there. "Guys, did you hear me?" Nothing. Then another customer group arrived, and instantly all 7 actors came alive. Performed their scares, froze again when the customers left. Marcus looked unsettled now. "Okay, that's weird. But they're doing their job. Customers are screaming. That's what matters. We need to talk to them after the shift, find out what's going on." Agreed. But for now, we keep the attraction running. I stayed near room 13 for the rest of the night. Watched the pattern continue. Performers freezing between groups, animating when customers arrived, like they were on autopilot, like something else was controlling them. The attraction closed at 1 a.m. Final customer group went through at 12:45. I waited for the room 13 actors to emerge. They came out around 1:15, laughing and talking. Completely normal. No sign of the strange behavior I'd witnessed all night. I pulled Derek aside. "Hey, can I ask you something? During your shift, do you remember being aware between customer groups?" "What do you mean?" "Like, When no one was walking through, were you conscious? Were you thinking about stuff? Or was it more like spacing out? He thought about it. You know, that's a weird question. I don't really remember the downtime. I remember the customers. Remember doing my scares. But the gaps between, it's kind of blank, like lost time. Is that normal? I don't know. How do you feel? Any headaches, dizziness, confusion? No, I feel great. Actually, I feel really good, like energized. Normally, I'd be exhausted after a 4-hour shift, but I could go again right now. I talked to the other 6 actors. Same responses. They remembered performing for customers but had no memory of the time between groups. And they all felt unusually energized, despite having just finished a long shift of repetitive scares. Do any of you remember talking to each other during the shift? Having conversations when no customers were there? They looked at each other confused. "We're not supposed to break character," one said. "We just stand in position until the next group comes through." But do you remember standing there? Being in position, they couldn't. The entire 4 hours was a blur of customer interactions with blank spaces between. I went to Marcus's office after everyone left. "We have a serious problem with room 13. The actors are performing well. Customers love it. I don't see the problem. The actors are losing time. They have no memory of significant portions of their shift. And when I observed them between customer groups, they were completely unresponsive. This isn't safe. You're overthinking this. It's probably just an adrenaline thing. They're so focused on their performances that everything else becomes background noise. Marcus, I've worked here 6 years. I've seen hundreds of actors. This is different. This is wrong. Look, we're 3 weeks into October. We're making great money. Room 13 is a hit. Unless someone gets hurt or the actors quit, we're not changing anything. Keep an eye on it, but let them do their job." I wanted to argue more, but I was exhausted. First night of a long season. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe there was a rational explanation I wasn't seeing. But I didn't believe that. Because I'd seen their eyes. Seen that emptiness. That absence. Whatever was in room 13 when customers weren't present, it wasn't the actors I'd hired. It was something else. Something that had learned to perform, to scare, to play the role. And it was using my actors like puppets. Week 2 of October. Room 13 actors continued to perform flawlessly. Customer reviews were incredible. Most realistic killers I've ever seen. Actually terrifying. Felt like they were really going to hurt me. But the actors' memory gaps were getting worse. Derek came to me on October 10th. "Lisa, I need to talk to you about something weird." "What's up?" "I'm losing more than just the downtime now. I'm losing whole nights. Like, I remember getting into costume, remember you doing my makeup. Then nothing until I'm in the parking lot after close. 4, 5 hours, just gone. Have you seen a doctor?" I made an appointment. But I wanted to ask, are the other room 13 actors experiencing this too? I'd been documenting it. All 7 actors reported the same thing. Progressive memory loss during their shifts. They'd go into room 13 and essentially black out until the shift ended. But they continued to perform. Security footage showed them doing their scares perfectly, hitting their marks, delivering lines. They just had no memory of doing it. I reviewed the security camera footage carefully. The hallway camera showed customers walking through, actors jumping out, everything looking normal. But there was something off about the actors' movements. They were too precise, too synchronized, like they'd rehearsed together for months instead of days. And between customer groups, when they froze, the camera would sometimes glitch. Static, distortion, like the feed was being interfered with. I found another disturbing pattern. The actor's appearance was changing, subtle at first, Derek's posture was becoming more like Bundy's actual posture based on archival footage. His facial expressions, even when not performing, were starting to mirror Bundy's documented mannerisms. The actor playing Dahmer was developing Dahmer's distinctive flat affect. The Gacy actor started wearing the clown makeup in a slightly different way, matching old photos of Gacy at children's parties more accurately than my original design. They were becoming more authentic, more accurate, like they were learning from something. I decided to spend an entire night in room 13, hidden in one of the alcoves, watching what happened between customer groups. October 12th, I told Marcus I was doing quality control observations. He approved it, probably just happy I wasn't pushing to close the room anymore. I hid in the alcove that had originally been a viewing room, behind some props, with a clear view of the hallway where the 7 actors stood. At 7:15 p.m., the actors took their positions, normal, alert, making small talk before customers arrived. At 7:23 p.m., the first customer group came through. Actors performed perfectly. Customers screamed and laughed. At 7:28 p.m., customers left the room, and the actors froze. But this time, hidden and watching carefully, I saw what happened during the freeze. For about 30 seconds, they were just still. Normal, post-performance rest. Then, gradually, their expressions changed, became blank, empty, their eyes unfocused, and something else moved into them. I can't describe it better than that. It wasn't visible exactly, more like a change in pressure, a shift in the air. But I could feel presences entering the room. 13 presences, more than the 7 actors. The temperature dropped 15 degrees in seconds. My breath became visible. The actors began to move again, but differently. Their movements were subtly wrong, the way they held their bodies, the angle of their heads. They were being puppeted, operated from somewhere else. And they spoke, not the actors' voices, different voices, old-fashioned accents, fragments of conversations. Burned so fast, couldn't reach the stairs. Smoke filled my lungs, couldn't breathe. Door was locked from outside, we couldn't. 13 of us, all trapped. They were talking about fire, about being trapped, about dying, the 1951 boarding house fire, the 13 deaths. They were here. And they were using my actors like vessels. Experiencing the haunted house, experiencing being seen and feared through the actors' bodies. When the next customer group arrived at 7:35 p.m., the presences retreated. The actors snapped back to normal, performed their scares, froze again after customers left. The cycle repeated. Between groups, possessions, conversations about the fire, movement that wasn't quite human. During groups, normal performances, perfect scares. The entities were riding along, using the actors as temporary bodies, learning to scare, learning to perform, learning to be the killers they were dressed as. Around 9 p.m., something changed. During one of the possession periods, the entity controlling Derek's body turned and looked directly at my hiding spot. "We know you're there," it said in a voice that wasn't Derek's. "We know you've been watching. You created this theater of horror. You taught us how to frighten, how to embody fear." I didn't respond, barely breathed. "We died in terror," another voice said from a different actor. "Died screaming, burning, trapped. We've been here 73 years, invisible, unheard. But now you've given us form, given us purpose, given us audience. We're not trying to hurt anyone," a third voice added. "We're just trying to be seen, to be felt, to matter again." The actors don't mind. They don't remember. They're safe. "Leave them alone," I said quietly. They didn't consent to this. They chose to work in room 13, the first voice said. Room built where we died. Wearing costumes of killers, pretending to be monsters. We're simply making the performance authentic. You're possessing them, taking their consciousness, borrowing. We give it back, they're never harmed, and in exchange we get to exist, get to be part of something, get to perform. This has to stop. Or what? You'll close room 13? We'll just find another way. We've been here decades. We'll be here decades more. At least this way, everyone gets what they want. You get perfect actors. Customers get real fear. Actors get paid. And we get to be seen. A customer group arrived. The entities released the actors, who immediately performed their scares. Perfect timing. Perfect execution. I stayed hidden until my shift ended at 1 a.m. Watched the possession cycle repeat dozens of times. The entities were treating it like a job, like they were employees fulfilling a role. They weren't malicious. They were desperate. Desperate to exist, to be acknowledged, to matter in some way. But they were also getting stronger, learning more, becoming more confident in controlling the actors' bodies. What would happen when they got too confident? When they decided not to give the bodies back? I confronted Marcus after that night, told him everything I'd witnessed. Lisa, you've been working too hard. You're seeing things that aren't there. I recorded audio. I have evidence. I played him the recording from my hidden phone. The voices talking about the fire. The entities explaining their purpose. Marcus listened, then shook his head. That's actors improvising. They're probably doing character work between groups, staying in the moment. Those aren't their voices, Marcus. It's called acting. Look, I appreciate your concern, but room 13 is making us more money than any other room. We're not changing anything. What if someone gets hurt? No one's been hurt. The actors are fine. You said yourself they report feeling energized. Whatever's happening, it's working. I couldn't let it go. Started researching the 1951 fire more carefully. Found newspaper archives, survivor testimonies, building inspection reports. The boarding house had been cheap accommodation for transient workers. 13 people living there on October 31st, 1951. Halloween night. Someone had set off fireworks inside as a prank. One landed in a pile of old newspapers. Building went up in minutes. The fire marshal's report noted something strange. The front door had been locked from outside. So had the fire escape door. 13 people trapped, unable to escape. The official report called it criminal negligence by the building owner, who was never found and presumably fled. But reading between the lines, I saw something else. The fire wasn't an accident, it was murder. 13 people deliberately locked in and burned alive on Halloween night. And now, every October, when we opened our haunted house on their graves, they came back, sought outlet for their trapped existence, found it by inhabiting actors dressed as killers. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd been murdered. Now they inhabited murderers, played at being the monsters they'd been victims of. By mid-October, the Room 13 actors were changing more noticeably. Derek had adopted Bundy's mannerisms even outside the haunted house. Would charm people with Bundy's specific style, use phrases Bundy had used. The Dahmer actor had become withdrawn, eerily calm. The Gacy actor was developing a split personality, friendly one moment, menacing the next. They were becoming the roles. Not just performing them, but embodying them. The entities weren't just possessing them during shifts, they were influencing them constantly. And the actors didn't notice, would describe feeling really connected to the character, and understanding the role on a deeper level. They thought it was good acting, didn't realize they were being slowly replaced. October 20th, one of the actors, Sarah, playing Eileen Warnos, came to me concerned. "I did something weird last night," she said. "After my shift, I went to a bar, started talking to a guy, and I threatened him, said things Eileen would say, used her voice. I didn't mean to, it just came out. And for a few seconds I felt this rage, this hatred toward him. It wasn't mine, it was hers. Hers? Eileen's, like she was in my head, like I was channeling her. Sarah, I need you to quit room 13, transfer to a different room, or take the rest of October off. I can't afford to quit. And honestly, I don't want to. When I'm in character, when I'm her, I feel powerful, alive. It's addictive. That was the problem. The actors were starting to enjoy it, enjoy the possession, enjoy being more than themselves. The entities weren't forcing control anymore. The actors were inviting it, embracing it. October 25th, Marcus called an emergency meeting. "We have a problem. 3 of our room 13 actors have been reported to police. Threatening behavior, aggressive incidents, 1 physical altercation, all in the past week, all outside work hours." "What's going on?" I told him again. The possession, the entities, the fire victims taking over the actors' personalities. "That's insane, Lisa. These are method actors taking their roles too seriously. We need to talk to them about separating character from self. It's not method acting. It's possession. And it's getting worse. Fine. If you're so convinced, prove it. Give me concrete evidence that can't be explained rationally." I thought about it. How do you prove possession? I need access to room 13 after hours. Alone. No customers, no actors. Just me and the room. Why? Because I think the entities are strongest when the actors are present. But they're always there. If I'm alone in room 13, maybe they'll communicate directly. Maybe I can record something undeniable. Marcus reluctantly agreed. October 26th, after close, I would have room 13 to myself for 2 hours. That night, I entered room 13 at 1:30 a.m. Empty, silent. Just the costumes hanging on mannequins, the props positioned, the fog machines off. I stood in the center of the hallway. "I know you're here. I know what you are. I want to understand. Want to help if I can." Silence for several minutes. Then the temperature dropped. Fog started rolling across the floor despite the machines being off. The lights flickered, and voices spoke from all around me. "You want to help? You want to understand? Then feel what we felt." The air pressure changed. Something pushed against my consciousness, trying to enter, trying to possess. I fought it, held my ground. "No, you can talk to me. You don't need to control me. We've been talking. You haven't been listening. We don't want to hurt anyone. We want to perform, to be the monsters, to have purpose. Let us continue. You're hurting the actors, changing them, taking them over. They're better this way, stronger, more alive. They're becoming what they're pretending to be. Isn't that the ultimate performance? They're losing themselves. They're finding themselves. Finding power. Finding what it means to truly inhabit a role. You taught us this. You created this theater of horror. We're just taking it seriously. The entities manifested more clearly now. Not visible, but present. 13 presences surrounding me. Each one carrying decades of trapped fear, anger, and desperate need to exist. "What do you want?" I asked. "Halloween," they said in chorus. "October 31st, the anniversary of our death. We want to perform, really perform. Not for customers pretending to be scared, for people who understand real fear, real horror. What does that mean? You'll see. We've been practicing, learning. The actors have taught us so much. And on Halloween, we'll show you what we've learned, what we've become. The presences withdrew. Temperature returned to normal. I was alone in an empty room. I had 5 days to figure out what they were planning for Halloween night, October 27th to 30th. I tried everything to prepare for what the entities were planning. I researched exorcism, spiritual cleansing, anything that might break the possession, but traditional methods required the possessed to want freedom. My actors didn't want freedom. They wanted to stay connected to the entities, wanted the power, the confidence, the feeling of being more than human. Derek told me on October 29th, "I've never felt this good. I'm confident, charismatic, fearless. Whatever's happening in room 13, I don't want it to stop. For the first time in my life, I feel like I matter, like I'm important." The entities had given them something they'd been lacking: purpose, power, significance. And in return, the entities got bodies, got to exist, got to perform. It was a symbiosis, and I was the only one who saw it as a problem. Marcus scheduled our biggest night for Halloween, October 31st. Extended hours, 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. Expected 800+ customers. Triple admission price. It would be our most profitable night of the season. I went to him one last time. "Cancel Halloween night, or at least close room 13. Something's going to happen." "Based on what? Your ghost stories?" "Lisa, I respect you, but you're seeing patterns that aren't there. Room 13 is fine. The actors are fine. We're making money. That's what matters. People could get hurt. The only people getting hurt are the ones you keep scaring with your paranormal theories. Drop it." I couldn't drop it, but I couldn't stop it alone either. Halloween night arrived. I came in early at 5 p.m. to prep. The atmosphere in the haunted house felt different. Charged, electric, like the building itself was anticipating something. Room 13's 7 actors arrived at 5:30. I applied their makeup, got them into costume. They were unusually focused, calm. Derek looked at me with eyes that weren't quite his anymore. "Tonight's going to be special," he said. "What do you mean?" "You'll see. We've been practicing. We're ready." "Ready for what?" He just smiled. Bundy's smile. Charming and predatory. The attraction opened at 6 p.m. Customer flow was steady. Room 13 performed normally for the first few hours. Perfect scares, happy customers, everything routine. At 9 p.m., I noticed the pattern changing. The actors were staying frozen longer between customer groups, and when they animated, they moved differently. More fluid, more confident, more real. Customers were getting genuinely terrified, not the fun haunted house screams. Real fear. Several people exited room 13 shaking, crying, saying, "That was too real," and "They actually scared me." At 10 p.m., the first incident happened. A customer group went through room 13. When they emerged, one woman was hyperventilating. He touched me, the Bundy actor. He grabbed my arm and whispered something in my ear. Something personal, something he couldn't have known. I checked the footage. Derek, in full Bundy character, had indeed grabbed her arm, violation of our no-touch policy, and whispered something. The audio was unclear, but the woman's reaction was immediate terror. "What did he say?" I asked her. "He said my daughter's name. My daughter, who died 3 years ago. Said, 'I know where she is. Want me to tell you?' How did he know? How could he possibly know?" I went to room 13, pulled Derek aside between customer groups. "You can't touch customers. And you can't use personal information. Where did you learn about her daughter? Derek looked at me with those wrong eyes. I didn't learn it. I knew it, he knew it. Bundy was good at reading people, understanding them. I'm just channeling that ability. You're scaring people for real. This isn't fun anymore. Isn't that the point? This is a haunted house. We're supposed to scare people. Not like this. This is psychological damage. They'll be fine. They wanted to be scared. We're giving them authentic fear. Real horror. Isn't that better than fake screams? He returned to his position before I could respond. The entities weren't just inhabiting the actors anymore. They were improving them, making them genuinely frightening. At 11 p.m., the second incident. Customer came out of room 13, bleeding. Not fake blood, real blood from a scratch on his arm. He claimed the Dahmer actor had reached out with something sharp and cut him. I found the Dahmer actor, Marcus, confusing, same name as our owner, and checked his costume. He was wearing Dahmer's glasses, carrying a Polaroid camera prop. Nothing sharp, but his fingernails had grown, or appeared to have grown. They were longer than they'd been hours ago, almost claw-like. Did you scratch that customer? I asked. Marcus, the actor, looked at his hands, confused. I don't remember. Did I? I remember him walking past, remember feeling this hunger, this need, like Dahmer's need. And then he was bleeding. You need to control yourself. You can't hurt customers. I'm trying, but it's hard to tell where I end and he begins anymore. During the performance, I'm not me, I'm him. And he wants... The actor trailed off, staring at his elongated nails like he'd never seen them before. At midnight, the transformation accelerated. All 7 actors in room 13 were no longer partly possessed. They were fully taken over. Between customer groups, they didn't freeze anymore. They moved, talked, interacted, but not as the actors, as the entities, as the 13 fire victims channeling the 7 serial killers. And they were performing for each other now. Practicing, refining their fear techniques. I watched on the security camera as they rehearsed scares when no customers were present. Perfecting timing, adjusting positions, discussing strategy in voices that belonged to neither the actors nor the historical killers, but something in between. They were becoming something new, something that had never existed before. Ghosts wearing human bodies, playing monsters, creating a new form of entity. At 1 a.m., Marcus, the owner, finally saw what I'd been warning about. He came to the security office, pale. I just walked through room 13. Something's wrong with the actors. They're not responding to me. They're not human anymore. I know, I've been trying to tell you, what do we do? I don't know. They're fully possessed now, and they don't want to stop. They're planning something for the end of the night. We close early, clear the building, call the police. The police can't help with this. And the actors won't leave. They have nowhere else to go. This is their Halloween, their anniversary. They're going to celebrate whether we want them to or not. At 2 a.m., with 1 hour left in our extended Halloween schedule, the entities made their move. The next customer group to enter room 13 didn't come out. We waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The group should have exited by now. I ran to room 13, burst through the door. The 7 actors were standing in a circle in the center of the hallway, and in the middle of that circle were the missing customers, 6 people, frozen in place, eyes wide with terror. "What are you doing?" I demanded. Derek turned to me, showing them real fear. Not pretend haunted house fear. Real, existential, bone-deep terror. The kind we felt when we burned, when we died screaming. when we realized nobody was coming to save us. Let them go. We will. After Halloween ends. After midnight passes. We just want them to understand. To really understand what it means to be afraid. This is kidnapping. This is assault. This is performance art. This is authenticity. You wanted a realistic haunted house? This is as real as it gets. The frozen customers were conscious. I could see their eyes moving, tears streaming down their faces. They were awake, aware, and completely paralyzed by whatever the entities were doing to them. Please, I said, you've made your point. You've shown us you're real, you're powerful. But don't hurt these people. They're innocent. So were we, another actor's voice said. We were innocent. Just living our lives. And someone locked us in, let us burn. Nobody helped us, nobody even tried. I'm trying to help now. Let me help. Release these people, and I'll find a way for you to stay, to exist, to keep performing. How? Marcus wants to close room 13, shut us down, send us back to nothing. I looked at Marcus, who'd followed me into the room. He nodded slowly, understanding that negotiation was our only option. We won't close room 13, I said. We'll keep it open. Year-round if necessary. Give you a permanent space, let you perform. But you have to let these people go. The entities conferred. Not allowed. I could feel them communicating. 13 consciousnesses discussing options. Year-round, Derek's voice said finally. Not just October. We want to exist all year. And we want authentic audiences. People who understand real fear, not thrill seekers. Real witnesses to horror. I don't know how to arrange that. You'll figure it out. Or we keep this group, and the next group, and the next. We'll fill this room with frozen witnesses until someone gives us what we want. Marcus stepped forward. Listen to me. All of you. I understand you're angry. You were wronged, murdered, forgotten. But this isn't the way. These people haven't hurt you. Let them go. And I promise I'll build you something better than this. A permanent space, a real memorial, where you can be remembered, honored, and yes, allowed to perform. But not like this. Not through terror. The entities considered. The temperature in the room fluctuated wildly as they decided. Finally, at 2:47 a.m., 1 hour before the anniversary of their deaths in 1951, they released the customers. The 6 people collapsed, gasping, crying, alive but traumatized. We got them out of the building immediately, offered refunds and medical assistance, prepared for lawsuits we'd probably never survive. But the 7 actors remained in room 13, still possessed, still waiting. We want your promise, Derek's voice said. In writing, year-round space, permission to exist, permission to perform. Marcus and I drafted a document, a bizarre contract with ghosts, promising them permanent residence in what would become a year-round installation. Not a haunted house attraction, but an experiential horror memorial dedicated to the 1951 fire victims. We signed it, not sure if it would hold any legal or spiritual weight, but it felt important, formal recognition of their existence. At 3:47 a.m., exactly the time they'd died 73 years ago, the entities released the actors. All 7 collapsed simultaneously. When they woke up, they had no memory of the entire night. Thought they'd just finished a normal Halloween shift. Their fingernails were back to normal length. Their eyes were their own again. The possession had ended. The entities had retreated, satisfied with their contract. We closed the haunted house that night, didn't reopen. Spent November dealing with lawsuits, trauma counselors, and trying to explain to police what had happened without sounding insane. Marcus kept his promise, bought the building permanently, converted Room 13 into a memorial and immersive horror experience. It's open year-round now, Thursday through Saturday. $50 admission. The 13 entities perform through hired actors. But now it's consensual. Actors know what they're signing up for. They train for months, learning to share their consciousness willingly with the spirits, learning to channel genuine fear without causing actual harm. It's smaller scale, more controlled. Only 6 people allowed in Room 13 at a time, and there are strict protocols, safe words, panic buttons, medical staff on standby, but it's real. The fear is real, the entities are real, and people come from around the world to experience it. I don't work there anymore. Couldn't handle knowing what I know. Knowing that every performance involves actual possession. That the line between actor and entity has become so blurred that even the actors can't tell the difference anymore. But I visit sometimes, stand in the back and watch. See Derek, still playing Bundy, move with that predatory grace that's not quite human. See the other actors inhabit their killers with uncomfortable authenticity. And I wonder, are the entities possessing the actors? Or are the actors becoming the entities? After months of shared consciousness, of blended performance, where does one end and the other begin? The answer might be that it doesn't matter anymore. There's something new now, something that's never existed before. Living people carrying dead consciousnesses, channeling historical killers, creating horror that's simultaneously performance and genuine supernatural experience. Marcus makes money. The actors feel fulfilled. The entities get to exist. And I can't sleep at night. Because I know the truth. We didn't solve the possession problem. We normalized it, commercialized it, made it acceptable. And every Halloween when the anniversary comes around, the entities grow stronger, more confident, more ambitious. Last year, they asked for a second room. Marcus agreed. Now, Room 14 exists, the Victims' Memorial, where the entities show you what it was like to burn alive in 1951. Full sensory experience. Heat, smoke, the feeling of being trapped. 3 people had to be hospitalized opening night. This year, they're asking for Room 15. I've tried to stop it. Tried to convince Marcus to shut it down. But he shows me the revenue, the waiting list, the international press coverage, the awards. It's the most authentic horror experience in the world, he says. People want real fear. We're giving it to them. It's not an experience. It's actual possession. Actual supernatural trauma. But nobody's died, and everyone signs waivers. They know what they're getting into. Do they? Do they really understand that the actors in Room 13 aren't fully human anymore? That the entities have become so intertwined with their hosts that separation is no longer possible? The original 7 actors never left. They work there full-time now, year-round. They say they can't imagine doing anything else. Can't imagine being separated from the entities they've been sharing consciousness with for years. Derek told me last month, I don't remember who I was before Bundy. That person feels like a dream. A weak, uncertain dream. This is who I really am now. This is who I was always meant to be. That's what terrifies me most. Not that the dead possess the living, but that the living don't want to be freed. If you work at a haunted house attraction, if you're ever hired for a room that seems too good to be true, that pays too well, that everyone else avoids, ask questions, research the building, learn the history, because sometimes the horror isn't fake. Sometimes the monsters aren't actors. Sometimes you're not playing a role. The role is playing you. And once you invite something in, once you open yourself to possession, even for a performance, you might not get yourself back. Room 13 is still there, still performing, still growing. And every October, when the anniversary comes around, the entities remember what was done to them, and they make sure we remember too, whether we want to or not. October 31st, 2024. This year's Halloween, I received a call from Marcus. "You need to come see this," he said. I drove to the former funeral home. Now it's called the Nightmare Memorial Complex. Rooms 13, 14, and 15 operational. Room 16 under construction. Marcus led me to a new addition, a viewing gallery. Like the funeral home's original purpose, but reversed. Instead of looking at the dead, we looked at the living. At the actors in room 13, performing for an audience of 50 people. Except the actors weren't moving. They stood in perfect stillness, and from their bodies translucent forms emerged. The 13 entities, now visible. No longer needing to hide, manifesting independently while keeping their hosts alive. They evolved, Marcus said. Learned to exist partially outside their hosts. They're becoming, I don't know what to call them. Angels of fear, demons of performance. Something new. The entities flowed through the audience, touching people, showing them visions, making them experience the fire, making them understand. And the audience was enraptured. Some were crying, some were laughing, some were both. They were being transformed by the experience. This is what they wanted all along, Marcus continued. Not just to exist, but to share, to make people understand what it means to die in terror, to transform that terror into what? Art? Religion? I don't know anymore. This has to stop. It's too late to stop. It's beautiful, horrible, but beautiful. We created something unprecedented, living art that's also dead, performance that's also possession, horror that's also healing. Healing. Look at them, the audience. They're facing their deepest fears, experiencing death and surviving it, coming out changed, better, stronger. The entities aren't just performing horror anymore. They're performing transformation. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm too close to see it clearly. But I remember Derek's eyes. Remember the actors who aren't quite actors anymore. Remember the line between person and performance dissolving. And I wonder, when we go to haunted houses, when we pay to be scared, when we invite terror into our lives as entertainment, are we the audience, or are we the performance?